start by welcoming you guys to the Writer's Bridge. And it is the Writer's Bridge because a platform is a thing that you stand up on and yell at people. And a bridge is something that your readers gently meet you in the middle of. And it is also kind of a two-way street. You meet the readers and the readers meet you, which is kind of nice. So to introduce ourselves, I'm Allison, and I sold a book on platform and proposal alone. In fact, I just finished the book last week. Some of you guys may have seen my Instagram post. Thank you guys for the good wishes. 95,000 words in 100 days because I'm superstitious enough to not start typing until the contract is signed, and they were kind of late on that. Ashleigh, what's your perspective?
Okay, so I'm sort of the opposite of Allison. I sold a book on the story only without very much of a platform because my agent thought the story, even though it was memoir, would sell itself. So now I am spending the time really trying to dig into my platform and trying to connect with my readers. I have a very dedicated small group who have already found my writing, and now I'm really working on broadening that so that we can really convince publishers that there is, a market for this book and that I already have a really dedicated group of people to help me promote it and launch it.
Awesome. So what we talked about last week was Twitter lists, and we also talked about Instagram analytics and how to find them with a creator account. Want to remind you guys again, we always cover a lot because we get really enthusiastic about it. So do plan to watch the video more than once, just so that you get a chance to hear it without feeling stressed. So today we're going to talk about cross-posting content and making content work for you. And Ashleigh, do you want to kick us off on that?
We need to really stop ourselves if we think we need to reinvent the wheel every time we post. If it is like 8 p.m., you're like, oh, what should I post tonight? And start looking around your house or start looking through your camera roll, you're going to probably drive yourself crazy very quickly. What we want to think about today is, what are the things that you already love, either in your life or you love to write about, that making content about would be very fun to do? So we're going to take a look at our content buckets. Those are the things that we are already interested in. Even something like knitting could be used in one of the most modern things that social media offers us, which is an Instagram reel. Amy, if you would show me how to increase and decrease stitches on an Instagram reel, I would watch that every day because I would love to see those little pieces of information in bite-sized chunks, okay? So what we want to do always is add value for our audience. That would add value for me, Amy. Stephanie, if you showed a really quick cooking technique on a reel or a little post with a short video, I would love that because Stephanie has a cooking show, The Blue and Yellow Kitchen. And Allison and I are going to talk about the things that make us, and how we use those main pillars, those content buckets, to create a ton of content for our social media.
And so Nina's asking, can you create content that is not related to your writing? Is there added value to that? And the answer is yes, absolutely, 100%. And in fact, what really helps maintain both the people who already love you and who know you as a person and who are your potential readers, and the people who are your fellow writers and your eventual potential readers, is when you mix it up. So talk about your writing, but also if you love to garden, talk about that. If you love to DIY, talk about that. Ashleigh does a lot of really interesting stuff with DIY beauty. And I'm looking for run this weird razor thing over her face. And I'm thinking, okay, that's fascinating. I'm watching it. It's like a car wreck. I can't look away. It doesn't necessarily tell me about Ashleigh's book, but it tells me I'm interested in Ashleigh. And so when Ashleigh does publish her book, I'm going to go, oh, hey, that's that lady who did that crazy video. And that might lead me to pick up the book on the shelf and look at it, or use the look inside feature on Amazon because I'm intrigued by the person. I feel like I know the person. So Ashleigh mentioned this thing about content buckets. And what I want to actually do is share screen with you guys really quick for a moment and just show you a little bit about what the heck do we mean when we are talking about a content bucket. What is that and how do you use it? One of the ways I like to think about how am I going to create content and what kind of content am I going to create is there was a magazine of me. What would that magazine be? And so, for example, this is Writer Magazine, and this month it's Anatomy of a Memoir, and they've got a craft article, and they've got some tips for engaging the reader, and they've got our writer's life focus about staying focused, and they've got another craft feature about nailing narrative structure. So for me, my content buckets are travel, writing, circus, honesty, and inspiration. And so those are the things that I like to write about. So this is the Allison magazine. And this is the kind of stuff I post about all the time. How circus still influences my life. If you scroll back on my Instagram, there's a couple of relatively recent circus posts that I've kind of managed to snake around to doing with writing and inspiration as well. When I can travel, I write a lot about travel. I like to do handstands in weird locations, and that usually makes an interesting photo. And I am above the normal handstanding age, so it makes me stand out a little bit. I give writing tips. I talk about Instagram for writers. I lead retreats both for myself and for other people. And so this is the magazine for me. And so I found it really useful to write down, these are the specific things I like to write about. And then I keep lists of ideas in that. So for example, I might have a little topic labeled circus. And okay, I can talk about that time that we did a show and it started raining really hard and the audience all retreated to the edge of the street and stood under the store. But we kept going, doing the stuff that we could do without falling down. They watched the whole time while we did this stuff in the pouring ass rain. And at the end, they all came out and gave us money and told us what a lovely time they had. So that's something that I could maybe tie that into my writing is not always going to happen at the ideal time and place for me, but it doesn't mean that a not ideal situation is going to produce not ideal writing. And sometimes struggling through the not ideal situation leads us to some really amazing writing because we had to focus really hard, which makes me think, oh, I should write about that time my writing club met in a hotel lobby and there was Chinese karaoke going on underneath us so loud that our chairs literally vibrated and we wrote anyway. You know, and so these are part of my content buckets. And the ingredients are very often interesting. Like we like watching cooking shows. We like watching DIY shows. So it's okay to post about your struggle. It's okay to post about what's behind the curtain, which is something that Ashleigh really specializes in. I just got followed by somebody recently where what she does is every single day, she takes a picture of her writing space before she sits down to write, and then she captions the photo with what she worked on and how many words she got done today, and she posts that to her Instagram. There's not a ton of variety, but it's every single day, it's consistent. People know what they're gonna get. Ashleigh, will you add on to that?
So I think that sharing the struggle is one of the key takeaways there. On most social media platforms, it seems like a highlight reel. We're writers. We're not here to say life is perfect. We're here to shine a light on the parts that suck. So showing those parts in your life will help you connect with people. Now, you may not want to show it live. You may need a little bit of time. I think it's Cheryl Strayed who says, write from your scars, not from your wounds. You may need a few days after that blow up with your kids or your partner before you write about it or share something, or you may even need a few years. But talking a bit about the struggle, I got on my stories and I talked a lot about my writing and my querying process when I was early in that. And almost no writers followed me. It was just my regular friends and readers, but they loved that. They were fascinated to learn a bit about that part of publishing and to just really see someone who I grew up in figure skating and I just retired from coaching figure skating 18 months ago. So I'm very trained at making things look perfect when they really aren't. So to see that behind the scenes of how I was really struggling day to day was something that people connected with really quickly.
Yeah, and if you can direct it out to the reader, that's great too. Like today, my post was about finishing my book, but I tried to also make it, here are the things I did to finish my book, and some of these things are things you can do too. But it's also okay to just be honest. Carrie asks, is it important to show our face if, say, you are posting about your cooking bucket? No, you absolutely do not have to show your face. And if you don't enjoy showing your face, show something else, show your hand, show your signature coffee mug. Like I have this coffee mug I love that says I'm much cooler on Instagram. And I put that in as many photos as I possibly can. And if I didn't enjoy showing my face, I would probably keep showing like a token or a totem like that. Nina asks, how often do you post to Insta? Which is actually another discussion that Ashleigh and I were just talking about just now. So Ashleigh, how often do you post to Insta?
Okay, I post a static post to Instagram once or twice a day. Now, that is a lot. And there were periods when I was writing my book that I would actually go off Instagram for a couple months at a time, maybe pop in on my stories to promote a book someone else had coming out. There are seasons to all of this. I am focused on expanding my bridge, broadening my network. So this is where my focus is right now. My memoir is on submission with publishers. So I'm not digging into my manuscript. Allison, on the other hand, was just working under a deadline to finish the draft of her book. So it's been how many days since you posted it?
Almost 2 weeks, maybe even a little bit more. And I only posted today because I thought I would be embarrassed to go into this call without having a reasonably recent Instagram post. So there's 2 ways to look at your Instagram, which is reach and engagement. And this is true for all of your social media. When you post often, you get reach. More people see your stuff. The social algorithms, all of which their one goal is get people to spend time on this site so that we can put ads in front of their faces. That's every social media network's goal, is keep people on the site. So if you post regularly, the algorithm will show your stuff to more people. You get more reach, more new people see your stuff, more people who aren't already following you see your stuff. If you post less often, but you get a fair number of comments and you respond to all of your comments, you get more engagement. And so I posted this morning at my 2 p.m., which is like your dawn hours, which is not a great time of day to post. Normally I try to post in the evening so that the Eastern time zone gets my stuff in there mid-afternoon. But I'm already at like 179 likes and 21 bookmarks because I thought, oh God, I haven't done this in a while. I'd better write something really good. I wrote this whole 300-word comment about how I finished my book and how you could use those tips to finish your book. So I tried to make it an extra useful post so that it would get more engagement. The other thing that I like to think about is nurturing posts versus reaching posts. So you want posts that are the kind of stuff that you know the people who follow you are always coming back for. People always come to see the writing tips. But I also want new and interesting and exciting posts like my circus stuff that might bring in some new people because I'll use circus hashtags instead of primarily writing hashtags. Margaret asks, how do we know about the saves? And that's when you have the creator account on your Instagram and you can look at the post and it'll say view insights below your post. And your post insights will pop up at the bottom and you get the bookmarks, you get the number of times people have sent it, the number of times people have liked it. This only shows if you have a creator account, and listen to last week's episode to find out about the creator account. Rosalie also asks, is there any content you suggest to not post, something that you have found turns off your audience? What I've found is people don't like pictures of flowers. That may not be true for people who are amazing photographers or really into nature, but for me, I love orchids and I'll take like these beautiful close-up orchid shots. Nobody likes them. Nobody interacts with them. Nobody spends any time with them. I often don't follow accounts that are covered in photos of people's children because while children are lovely and delightful and amazing, I don't really enjoy them myself, particularly other people's children. So if somebody's account is full of kid pictures, I'm less likely to follow them. That said, if your writing touches on kids, I'm not your audience. You don't want me following you. You want the people who really dig kids to follow you. Ronit asks, I get likes on often via hashtags, but I don't get a lot of new follows that way. Does that mean I don't offer them value? No, it means people are shallow and they take a while to decide whether or not to follow someone. If you have a really pretty curated Instagram account like Ashleigh does, when you get the follow-up email, click through to Ashleigh's Instagram and take a look at it because she has a click through and go, oh yes, I want to follow this account. Whereas my account is kind of ugly right now because I've been posting what I feel like writing about instead of what makes a pretty picture. Whereas if you scroll back on me a few months, there's a better look to it. I have seen the number of people who follow me going down, even though people are still engaging and commenting, because my account does not have a please follow me right now, I'm awesome kind of look. So Arzo asks, he wants to write about the setting of the novel he's writing, and he ends up feeling like he's stretching himself thin. He wants to add more personality, but he's worried he's not going to be interesting enough. The really nice thing about this century is that for some reason, people really find other people interesting. And if you are honest about what you do, and you are honest about who you are, you're going to find people interested in you. And Arzo, you might want to follow Man Jalal's account because there's a writer here in Dubai called Man Jalal who starts all of his posts with hello frenemies. And it's a really interesting kind of style, but I think that might be a good example of personality. Erin Zimmerman says she's a botanist. There are some flower lovers out there. Lots of people do like flowers, so I just take crappy flower pictures, clearly, is the message that we've got here. Melissa says, we're talking a lot about Instagram. Do we prefer that over Twitter and Facebook? So right now, Instagram is better for authors overall, because Instagram is a place where people, they go to relax and they go to learn and find out new things. They're not going there to show off how clever they are, and they're not necessarily going there to argue with people or to make people unhappy or to talk about politics. So Instagram is a good place for people to gently get to know you. Twitter is really good for casual interactions, and especially if you can find community on Twitter. Like I really like this account called AITA, which stands for Am I the Asshole? And it's an account that actually brings over posts from Reddit, which is where people describe their situation and they ask, am I the jerk in this situation? And there's a lot of really good conversations that happen in the responses to those. And there's people who I've started to connect with through our regular accounts and not just through that community. Facebook is good for deepening personal connections with people who you have met in person or who you would like to meet in person. So like I know Anne McGrath largely through Facebook, somewhat because I think we've worked on a couple of posts together for the Brevity blog, but I feel like I know her because I see a lot of her life on Facebook. And the really nice advantage right now to being on Facebook is most people are interacting in groups. Very few people are actually interacting with a personal feed. They're mostly interacting in groups, and there are a ton of excellent writers groups on Facebook where you can really meet people and enjoy them and get to know them. Ivy asks, how do you create a manicured, ooh, great word, a manicured post sequence on Instagram? So what helps a lot is if you have a grid planning app. There's a whole bunch of them. If you enter Instagram Planner into your search engine, you will pop up with a bunch of Instagram Planner stuff. I like one called a color story, and I use a color story because it's fun to play with, but I pay a subscription for it. There's some that are free as well. And what it does is I plan out all of my posts in advance, and I see what are they going to look like next to other stuff. And I can touch on a post, and I can, I'm sort of like touching as I look, but I can move stuff around and I can see what a post is going to look like next to another post. There's a lot of Instagram planners out there, and it's fun. Like I really like it. Yolande asks, for memoir writers, would the pretty Instagram look turn people off? Like, does it look more curated than authentic? It depends on the person, and it depends on what you're doing. I think when people come to my posts, they come because they like my captions, and the photos are kind of a bonus rather than because they landed on my account and wanted to follow it. Mm-hmm. I want to share just a little bit more with you. And Cecilia, yeah, it does kind of feel overwhelming if you don't use Instagram very much. And it's possible that Instagram might not be your best platform. And that's okay, because it's always important. The platform should be the one that you enjoy connecting with readers on, which brings us to cross-posting and cross-purposing your content. And I'm going to share with you guys one more time. So, multi-use content. There's two ways to use your content more than once. One is cross-purposing, and one is cross-posting. So when you cross-purpose content, it's when you take the same idea and you make it into different stuff. So maybe you write a 900-word blog on WordPress, and your 900-word blog is all about, this is how I motivate myself to write. This is how I feel great when I write. Here's some tips that you could use to feel great as well. Maybe that leads you to a 500-word newsletter, because newsletters tend to be shorter than blogs. So maybe on the newsletter, you don't list every tip, you just list your top 3 tips about feeling good when you're sitting down to your writing. Then you take that over to Facebook. You do 2 30-word comments in 2 groups, where maybe you say in one group, oh, hey, I see we're having this discussion about how do we feel good when we're writing, here is my contribution. And in the other group, you say, oh, hey, I just wrote this blog about feeling good when you're writing. Here's a link to it, and here's the top tip that I would like to quote. And I would say always put an excerpt if you have the option to put an excerpt whenever you share your link, because it helps draw people in. You would also put the blog link on your actual author page, which helps you generate some content on your more or less useless Facebook author page that is nevertheless a good thing to have. And it's good to just channel content to it on a semi-regular basis. Then from that, you take it over to Instagram. You do one quote caption where you quote something specifically out of the blog you wrote, and you say, link in bio to read the rest of this blog. Maybe you make 2 cards, like those pretty things that Ashleigh makes, where it's just like text on a pretty background, and you quote 2 like meaningful things from your blog, like, hey, have you guys noticed pants makes writing so much better? And your other one is something meaningful about, you know, diving deep into the spirit of my writing and treating myself better by dressing appropriately for my desk, you know, or whatever. And one maybe like concept caption, where you're talking more about, hey, I'm feeling this battle lately to sit down and write. What's working for you guys? Does anybody have more advice? Then you take that over to Twitter, and maybe on Twitter you quote the blog a couple of times, and maybe you also write, hey, today I achieved pants. Who else achieved pants? Post a photo of your writing bottoms. And all of a sudden you've got, you know, a 30 tweet thread going on Twitter. So you can take one idea and use it many ways. And you're not gonna burn out your audience, because most people, number one, they're on social media at different times of day. So the algorithm will show them different things. The other thing is, people go on different platforms, and they go there for different reasons. So if people are scrolling through Twitter and they go, oh, I saw Anne already say that on Facebook, they're just gonna scroll by. They're not gonna hate it, or they might tap like on it there as well, or they might now have a comment about it that they didn't have before that they're gonna add in. So it really works to keep reinforcing the content buckets that you care about across these different platforms. As well as actually writing the same idea again and again, you can also multi-use your content. So I wrote a blog post called Why No One's Interacting With You on Twitter, and I put it on Brevity. I then auto-posted that to Twitter, and that's a tool called IFTTT that I'm gonna show you guys about in just a minute. Then I retweeted somebody else, because Erica Dreyfus included it in her newsletter roundup. And so then I retweeted her tweet that retweeted my thing. Then I did a whole concept thread where I talked on Twitter about why I don't think Writer's Lift is a really great thing. It's not really building platform, it's just building numbers. And then Ashleigh and I started this Zoom series based on why no one's interacting with you on Twitter, because I really liked what she was doing on Facebook. And we were like, hey, we should do something together, and wouldn't that be fun and cool? For example, you can take a book review. So Sajal Shah wrote a really nice book of essays called This Is One Way to Dance. We blogged about it on Brevity. I didn't write the blog, somebody else did. But because I use IFTTT, which we're gonna talk about, to auto post, that blog went to my Twitter. And so that was a Twitter post that is quality content that my audience likes, because my audience likes memoirs, and they like essays, and they like Sajal. And I didn't have to do anything. It just magically appeared on Twitter. Then on Instagram, you can post a photo of yourself with the book, or the reviewer with the book, or the author with the book, and maybe quote from the review or quote a passage that you really liked from the book. Then you can do another photo that's just the book in like kind of a cool styled environment where, you know, you put it with a prop, or you put it next to a plant, or you put it next to your goldfish. Then you can do a quote card, one of those pretty backgrounds where you're quoting from the book or you're quoting from the review. And for your Instagram stories, and we're going to do a whole episode on stories, don't worry about it too much right now, you can screenshot the scrolling through of the blog. So if people want to read the blog on your stories, they can read it through there. So write it once, use it a bunch, post it different places, different people will see it at different times, and they will see it for different reasons. Because always remember, you do not work for social media. Social media works for you.
One of my main things I write about is marriage. I'd like to speak to the manager, the one who decided marriage was a good idea. This is how I introduced my audience to the fact that, hey, my marriage isn't as great as maybe you would think from the outside, with this really subtle title called I Thought I Needed a Divorce. Okay, and this caught people's eye because growing up in figure skating, I'm really good at making things look good on the outside, even when they're not. So this was my first newsletter. This was a blog post on my website. I also posted it to Facebook, where it got a lot of private shares. Like a lot of people sent it to friends in messages. And this was the photo I used to post it on Instagram. Now, one way to catch people's eye is when you post a photo for the caption to be contrary to the photo, to make people pause and go, wait, what? So here at our beautiful Greek wedding, the money in the air, right? Joyful, maybe not as much as it looks. Then here, the sweet talker. So you know, okay, there's somebody else involved in this equation here. And then these were all posts that I've done in newsletters, as blogs, on Facebook and Instagram. As we moved along, Marriage 3.0, talking about how I'm married to the same person, but it's a whole new version, we keep moving through this story. It is the same story every time, but I'm just showing a different piece of it, a different facet of it. We're moving along. I start to talk about how we had love, like we had love, the noun, but we didn't have love, the verb. And then I'm bringing in the image of our children, because throughout all of this, there have been stories about how I tried to be a mindful parent, but my own perfectionism makes it really hard for me to witness any weakness. It's a really tricky thing for me to try to let my kids really be themselves. I write about that a lot. So as we go here, this is our anniversary that we had a couple weeks ago. And you'll see I have a new ring on in that post. Doing this post, August 30th, where I say, this is why I chose moissanite instead of a diamond for my anniversary ring. And I've talked about how leading up to our 10th anniversary, I didn't know if we would stay married. So we really wanted to celebrate our 15th because we are in a new place. So in this, I tagged the jeweler. It's a moissanite ring, and they shared it to their story.
One of the things I love about this post is it covers a bunch of different buckets. So it covers the pretty Instagram photo of a relationship bucket. It covers the mildly advertising about a brand that I feel genuinely about, but they might also retweet me and share my stuff because I have talked positively and genuinely about their brand. It also covers the I feel socially conscious and I don't necessarily want to own a diamond that is created by semi-slave working conditions and distributed by a cartel. And so Ashleigh has managed to hit like a bucket of people concerned about the world, a bucket of people who want to know her and about her marriage, and a bucket of people who like pretty pictures and who like jewelry. And I think that's really cool that this one post covers a bunch of different things. And as you can see from these statistics, she's got some great reach here with this. Tell us about it, Ashleigh.
So enormous, just from the hashtags and tagging the brand, which was East West Gem Company. They have 156,000 followers. And they reshared this in their story, not even as a static feed.
And by static, it means a picture that's in your regular Instagram feed.
Right. It was just in their stories to expire in 24 hours. And this is the reach I got from it, which is quite remarkable. 889 profile visits. Normally, a very good post might get me 40 to 80 profile visits. A lot of website clicks, because in my website, in my link in bio right here.
And so what Ashleigh has done is she's using a service called Linktree. Instagram only lets you have one link in your bio. This is a way that you can use that one link to send people to many links. And Ashleigh has not just put, hey, here's the title of this thing I'm sending you to. She's asking a specific question here. Does your marriage kind of suck? Are you over hating your body? Is parenting a shit show? I mean, I want to know what's behind those links.
Yes, and since I did this, I've been getting a lot of click-throughs to my website, and even some comments and emails from people who have found me in different ways here on Instagram, and then are going back into some of my previous writing. And a lot of that previous writing was what inspired my memoir. So to have them get an idea now, and we had 73 saves. Can everybody see here? I made my pointer really big. This means people are saving your content. Saving for future reference is usually why people save. Sends. Nobody shared this to their story. I think they were sharing this with their partners, saying, hey, look at this gorgeous ring we could get, and the price point is much different than a diamond. And even follows. There was something about this post, the aesthetic of this post, or the fact that I was honestly telling people what I thought of the product, that made a lot of those people who came to my profile for the first time want to stick around. And a lot of them have sent me direct messages as well, asking more questions about the ring. And I am happy to do that. I am happy to make the connection with people, because that's what I want to do. I want to help people make decisions or help people feel supported.
And Victoria asks, what is Linktree? We're going to send you a link to Linktree in the follow-up email. And it is a free website where you hook up your Instagram to it, and it's very, very easy. It will be almost self-explanatory. We're going to give you a link to click on. And you'll want to start just by putting link to your author website. If you've got a Facebook author page, put that link in there. And then anytime you write something, link that as well so that people can easily get to it from your Instagram. Ashleigh, you got like 2-3 more minutes before we want to bust out into some breakout room.
I'm going to wrap it up right with this one. This was a photo that I posted just 4 days ago. This was one of my most liked photos from 3 years ago. And I'm reposting it here with the caption. So Manny and I, Manny's my husband, are laughing, and we're dressed up, we're at a wedding, and we look really joyful. And the caption says, can I tell you a secret? We were not happy in this photo. And I go through to kind of poke fun a little bit at anybody who says their marriage is perfect is definitely lying. It is work, and it's okay that it's work. The way I left it at the end here was, may each of you have at least one person you can dump your story on when you need to unload. And if you don't, know that you can dump it on me so that you can rest.
It's beautiful. And you had people get in touch with you through that.
I really did. I did probably 10 new conversations in my DMs from people who just said, thank you. My marriage is hard. And I say, I hear you. It is hard.
We're just going to put you briefly in breakout rooms of like 3 or 4 people, and we'll unmute you. And it's just so that you can say hello to people for about, 2-3 minutes a piece, or 2 or 3 minutes total, and tell them your social media, say who you are, say what you're writing. So we're going to go ahead and put you in rooms. If you are not able to get into a room, that's okay. You can stay with us. Because I know last week, a couple of people turned up and then nobody else was in their room. So they just came back and spent time with us. And that was all good.
We're happy to have you spend time with us.
Awesome. So people are heading into breakout rooms and meeting each other. So Ashleigh, when we come back from breakout, I think we've covered almost everything. I just want to whip through IFT, and then I want to talk about Casey's social media.
Wonderful.
So Yeah. So people who are in our room, how's it going? Do you have any questions? Oh, these are all the people with no mic. It's okay. We're only going to be in these breakout rooms for about 4 or 5 minutes just to give people a chance to meet each other. I started doing the breakout room thing because there's a co-working thing that happens I think it's every 3 weeks or something like that, that Tara Moore runs. Tara Moore is a woman who wrote a book called Playing Big. And she does a co-working thing where people just kind of work on whatever is the project they need to do. Like there were people who were folding laundry, there were people who were writing a blog post, and it was really nice. I really enjoyed like having that working community. And then then we did a breakout room thing in the middle, and it was actually way cooler than I thought to meet people. Marian,
you know what?
Sorry, go ahead, Ashleigh.
I was just going to say that's funny because Playing Big by Tara Moore is the book that I have purchased more than any other book in the world. I've probably purchased at least 24, maybe 36 copies of it. I used to give it to my graduating seniors every single year, and I gave it to my coaching staff. We did a group study on it. It is a great book if you guys haven't read it.
Denise asks if there's a good book to start out on Instagram for an author. My #1 Instagram book is a book by Sarah Tasker, like worker, Tasker, and she wrote a book called #Authentic.
And here it is right here.
It is visually heavy, but it is really about how can you be your true and genuine and wonderful self on Instagram in a way that is also appealing to the people who need to hear from you and who need the information that you are sharing. Not that I want anybody to feel overwhelmed, but I'm a little bit glad that I'm still seeing people go, oh my goodness, this is so much information, because Ashleigh and I are trying really hard to cut back on the amount of stuff we have on our planned agenda for each meeting, because otherwise we don't get to it all, and we want to make sure that there's lots of time for questions. So I'm kind of glad that we're still hearing a little bit of, hey, there's stuff that's a little bit fast paced. I'm glad I'm going to watch the video again, because it makes me feel like, okay, good, we're still giving enough content. So I'm glad to hear about that. So welcome back, people from the breakout room. It is awesome to have you here back in the main room again. And while you were in your breakout rooms, we recommended a book on Instagram called #Authentic by Sarah Tasker. And as you come back from the breakout room, we actually have 2 special people with us today, which is Casey Mulligan Walsh and Emily Boardman, and both of them are birthday ladies today. So happy birthday, guys. And
happy birthday.
Ashleigh and I have a little song for you.
We do.
This is your birthday song. It is very long. That's it.
I deserve it. But I will try. I'm going to practice.
Thank you.
You're so welcome. I'm going to share with you guys a tool called IFTTT, and that is IFTTT. And right now you should be seeing a thing that says My Applets, and there's 3 big red boxes. If you see it, heads like this mean yes. Awesome. Cool, cool. So what IFTTT does, it is a free service. And I want to preface this by saying it is big and simple, and yet not quite as intuitive as I would like it to be. It may be intuitive for you, but it took me a little fiddling. So if it takes you a little fiddling, it's not just you. It is not as intuitive an interface as it appears to be. On the other hand, fingers crossed, it will be exactly lined up with your intuition, and it'll be perfect for you. So IFTTT is what automatically posts for me. If you follow me on Twitter, you see that all of my Instagram posts pop up on my Twitter. If you follow my retreats, Rebirth Your Book, on Twitter, you see that all of the brevity posts and all of the Instagram posts pop up on Twitter. I do not have to post those myself. They pop up automatically by setting it up on IFTTT. And so what IFTTT does for me is, I have a Pinterest board. It's not really useful as an author, but just in case I ever need it, all of my Instagrams automatically go to Pinterest. All of my Instagram photos go to my author Facebook page. which is another thing where it's content that I don't have to work for because I've already generated it for Instagram. And it's something that goes on the author page that a moderate number of people see it, a moderate number of people interact with it, and I don't really have to do anything very much about it. It also tweets all of my Instagrams as photos. So in Instagram, there's an option to cross-post your stuff to Twitter, but it posts as a link instead of the photo, which is not super useful and most people won't click on it. By doing it through IFTTT, your actual photo pops up.
When it's posted to those other platforms, does it have a little indicator posted by IFTTT, or does it just post it?
I think it just posts it. I don't think it says posted by IFTTT. Okay. Because yeah, so all of the brevity blogs go to my Twitter and the Rebirth Your Book Twitter. All of the brevity blogs go to my Facebook page and my author Facebook page. And they have all these things called applets where you can hit the explore button and you can find out all of the different things that it does. And so for example, if I want to search for Facebook, it's going to show me all of the stuff that will do Facebook. And it also has a bunch of other stuff. Like if you have a smart thermostat, you can connect it to your smart thermostat. If you would like to know when the International Space Station is passing overhead, it will tell you that. Most of this stuff you are not gonna need, and that is A-okay. But I find it really useful for cross-posting. So when I type in Facebook to see what applies to Facebook, I can tweet all of my Facebook status updates. I can automatically share Facebook status updates to my author page so that I'm only having to post it once on my own feed and not copy paste. It will automatically sync so that if I change my profile picture, my Facebook and my Twitter profile will stay the same. It will save new photos that somebody tags me in. So if you're keeping track of family photos, this will help you for that. The one I use a lot is auto post from Facebook page to Twitter. And of course, the auto post from Instagram, post your Instagram photos to a Facebook page. You will need to be your author page and you will need to hook that up. If you have more than one Facebook page, you'll need 2 IFTTT accounts. And you can DM me about that. It's not a situation that's going to apply to very many people. So get in touch with me personally if you need to know more about that. But it's IFTTT. It is free and it is relatively easy to set up. So I would recommend that if you get a chance, start with just one service, see if it works. Like, oh, hey, I want my Instagrams to go to my Twitter, or I want my Instagrams to go to my Facebook author page. Set up one, make sure it works, then add another one when you feel confident that the first one works. Any questions about IFTTT?
We just have you ever used Hootsuite?
I have used Hootsuite, and Hootsuite does not work automatically the way IFTTT works, but when I want to schedule Instagram posts for a business Instagram account that I'm not going to do as much interaction on, I'll schedule like 2 or 3 months worth of posts on Hootsuite. So like for the brevity Instagram, which I also run, I will load up 90 photos on Hootsuite and have them drop 2 or 3 times a week so that I do not have to do it. I spend, 6 or 7 hours loading up all of the brevity Instagram, that kind of thing.
And for IFTTT, can you back post, or is it just for moving forward?
It is only for moving forward.
Okay.
Yeah. But that said, you can still how many people are following you on Instagram right now? And how many of them saw that post that you loved 6 months ago? Repost it. For your family, it's a blast from the past, and your new followers haven't seen it yet. Most people don't scroll back further than the top 9 or the top 18, and it's okay to repost stuff that did well or that you would like to have do better.
Question: hashtags on IFTTT. Do you include them in the captions, or do you put hashtags in the comment after IFTTT has shared to different places?
I haven't worried about that too much. When there are hashtags in the caption, IFTTT just shares it across. And I do find that when it posts an Instagram to my Facebook and I have one of those 300-word captions, I go into Facebook and I edit so that I get my paragraph breaks again, because IFTTT will remove your paragraph breaks.
Okay.
And try a couple of different ones, especially if you're cross-posting from a blog, Some of these applets just post the link. Some of them, like I have one that it automatically says new today on the Brevity blog, and then it gives the link. And I like that.
And do you know, can IFT go directly from IG to a website?
I don't know because I haven't done it yet, but I bet it does. I'm pretty sure you can IG to WordPress, but you might need a professional, you might need a paid WordPress account rather than a free WordPress account.
And Leslie has a question here. Some people seem to use IG instead of a blog. Is one better than another? I think it is important to have an author website. Whether or not you blog there is really up to you, because there are a lot of people who keep their best material on social media. They do. And the author page is sort of just the landing page if people want to get in touch with you, or you'll post your books there when your books are available. The caption length on Instagram is only 2,200 characters. So that is something that I run into an issue with. And I have to take blog posts and shorten them so that they fit into Instagram, or leave it on a good little cliffhanger so people then will go to my blog. So I think it depends on the length of content that you like to share.
And we've said it before, and we'll say it again, and we're in our last 5 minutes, guys. We really are going to wrap up close to on time. We've said it before, and we'll say it again. Your number one most valuable thing is your mailing list. Because when you write a newsletter, whether that's excerpts from your blog or copies of your Instagram captions or unique and specific material for your newsletter, that is people inviting you in rather than just you crossing their path. So as much as you can, start building the mailing list, and we'll do a whole episode about mailing lists. I want to talk a little bit about the lovely Casey Mulligan Walsh's social media. And so Casey you should right now be looking at Casey's website. Can everybody see the Casey Mulligan Walsh website? Awesome. So Casey's done a really nice thing here, which is that she's got a logo, which is a really pretty logo, and it reads even in a small size. Her name is nice and clear. And she's got something that I happen to know ties into her book specifically, Embracing the Full Catastrophe. It's a slogan, it's about what she writes, and it's intriguing because we don't really know what it means. She's got clear links. We know what they are. We don't know what Living with FH is, but we'll either be curious enough to click through, or if we have it, we know what it is and it's why we're here. Now, this is kind of neat. She's got a latest news thing that actually crawls across the screen. And so it does pull your attention to it, which is kind of nice. The one thing I would say there is if it's possible to use a slightly larger font size throughout pretty much all of this, you can really always up the font size 1 or 2 levels, because we're all getting old and we're all too vain to wear reading glasses, or maybe that's just me. But you can never go wrong with both your PowerPoint slides and your website. Up the font size a little bit. Now, this is a fairly chunky piece of content, but it's really specific about who Casey is and what she does. She's got a nice Joseph Campbell quote here, but then we've got 3 more quotes in a row right here, one of which is visually different than the other 2 quotes. I would say out of all of these quotes, I would put the full catastrophe quote up further because it clarifies a little bit about what that full catastrophe stuff means, and then maybe pick the quote you like second best and put it in this place right here. And go ahead, and if you love this Orson Welles quote, make it look like the other quotes, or make the other quotes look like it. I would say make the other quotes look like it, because right now these quotes that are typed are readable by somebody with a screen reader who's visually impaired. The picture quote is not readable by somebody with a screen reader. And so as much as we can, we want to make the website accessible. Down here, is this WordPress, Casey? Nod your head or shake your head. Yeah, it's WordPress. Okay, so down here, it's starting to get just a little bit like cluttered. And so if it's possible to move some of this onto another page so that it's not all one page, this is not a site design that really looks great as all one page. Like all of the individual pieces look really good, but I think it would look better on separate pages. She's got her Twitter feed going right here so that people who come to her from the website can get the Twitter feed. People who come to her website can get the Instagram feed. They see what's happening. They know what's going on. Ashleigh, any comments on the website?
No, I think it's such a nice looking website, and you made some really good points about just making it a little bit easier to read. But Casey, you've done some really good work with this.
Yeah, and the blog is nice. Like the blog page is really great.
Really
It's nice.
nice.
A lot of white space, up the font size. Always up the font size. Casey has a nice Instagram section as well here. I really like her Instagram account. It is not a curated account. Like it's definitely, this is what I felt like posting today. This is what's relevant to me. But the photos are clear and sharp and interesting and intriguing. And it's also interesting too, because the stuff that Casey's doing with her personal photos, they tend to be highly colored and oversaturated. And she's got a lot going on in the red spectrum here. So it is easy to pick out what's a personal photo versus what is a not personal photo. The one thing I would say is this is not the most appetizing plate of food I have ever seen. So that may not be like the very best thing to post on Instagram. If there's an important thing behind the story, put it on your Instagram stories where you can make a joke about it not being the most graceful looking plate of food you've ever seen, but it's significant, you know, because X and Y. If you like this red look, keep it. If you don't love the red look, you might start adjusting the temperature control and slide it to cooler. When you're editing your photos, slide your temperature a little bit cooler. You've got this super saturated look going on that really suits like the photo of the tractor and the cows here. And it's working some of the time. This looks like just a little tiny bit fake. And so if it's actually a real photo of your real life, you might actually want to edit less and make it look less fake. And the same thing with this photo here. And that's something that I did when I was first starting on Instagram. And if you scroll way back on my account, my stuff is super saturated because it's a really fun look. Embrace what you love, do it the way you like, but less saturated stuff right now is a little bit more trendy and people are more likely to click on it. So, but that said, stay true to yourself no matter what. Ashleigh, what do you think?
Yeah, agree. And so Casey was saying that some of the fake looking photos are Lightroom presets. And we will do a session completely on photo editing. Yeah, but I have a lot of different presets that I scroll through before I decide which one I'm going to use on each photo, because it just really depends what colors are in the photo already and what your lighting is to get the look that you want. And also in Lightroom, Casey, I could help you with this if you want. When you use a preset, you can still adjust. You can still adjust any of the settings that you want to make it look just a little bit different.
It's almost always better to use not 100% of the filter. So I want to duck over just to Casey's Twitter real quick, and then we're going to wrap up. I noticed here also that on her highlights, Casey has created her CNF tweets. And so over on Twitter, one of the things Casey does a lot is CNF tweets, and they all tie into her memoir and the topic of her memoir. They're all good individually. The one thing I'll say is that every single day from Casey, I see a CNF tweet in my feed because I follow Casey. And because they're similar in tone, I start to go, oh, it's another Casey CNF tweet, instead of really appreciating it for the jewel of good writing that it is. So you might want to go to every other day or every third day rather than every single day, or make sure that you're mixing in a couple of other topics or other things that you're interested in as well, if that makes sense.
That's such a good point, because consistency is really important, but you don't want people to think that it's predictable. So I think that those prompts every day for Casey is a really good thing for her writing, and she seems to enjoy it because the tweets are very good. Casey, if you want to continue with that, maybe have an auto share over from Instagram or something else, or retweet or quote tweet somebody 1 or 2 times a day, just to get like a little bit of variety in there.
One last thing about your Twitter account, put some spaces in there. So memoir space, separator space, CNF space, separator space, words at Baron. So yeah. So I'm going to stop sharing. And Casey, if you have more questions, feel free to holler and ask again later. I'm going to unmute everybody so that we can have our big, nice goodbye. Yay, excitement's
Bye, thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye,
Karen. Bye, Mila.
Bye, Lisa. Bye, Karen.
This is my favorite part of this
Thank
call.
you.
My favorite part, too.
Bye, Karen.
Bye.
Oh, I just love seeing people here live. I see on Facebook all the time. I really do.
Bye.
Bye, Evelyn.
See you. Bye, Jacqueline. Bye, Sakina. Bye, Barry, who's still connecting to audio. That weird, like,
You are so fancy and I love it. Okay, let's do it.
I think we've somehow lost Ashleigh.
Oh, and the baby left. Who was the baby who laughed at me?